I never thought I'd end up babysitting wildlife on an alien moon, but life has a way of kicking you in the shins before offering you a drink. My name's Mason Trent, scrapyard tech, part-time philosopher, full-time idiot apparently. The day started like most, grease on my hands, static in my comms, and a half-eaten protein bar staring at me from the console like it had opinions. Then I heard the sound. A whimper. Not human, not machine, something soft, small, and disturbingly close. I kicked over a crate, and there it was. A little furball the size of a backpack, covered in dust, ribs showing like metal struts on a derelict ship. Big gold eyes, twitching ears, and a tail that looked like it belonged to something that shouldn't fit inside my hangar. It was shaking so hard I thought it might rattle itself apart. My first thought? Great. Another space rat. My second thought? That's no rat. The thing looked up at me, made a noise halfway between a chirp and a purr, then staggered forward. I froze. My ex used to say I had the nurturing instincts of a toaster, and she wasn't wrong. But this little thing, damn it, it looked hungry. And I knew that look. I'd seen it in the mirror during the supply shortages. So I sighed, crouched down, and said the stupidest sentence a human can say in deep space. You hungry, buddy? No translator needed. It perked up instantly. I rummaged around and found a strip of beef jerky, standard issue astronaut survival food, flavored like regret. I tore off a piece and held it out. The cub sniffed, hesitated, then pounced. Not the jerky, the hand. It latched onto my glove, nibbling and growling, like it couldn't decide whether to love me or eat me. I tried to pull back gently, but the damn thing had grip strength like a hydraulic clamp. Easy, easy, hey, not the fingers. You bite, I bite back. It blinked up at me, then started licking my glove instead. I should have been touched, but it made this noise. A low, rumbling purr that sounded a little too pleased. My brain short-circuited. Oh great. Now I'm the weirdo who hand-fed an alien and made it purr. Somewhere, across the stars, an interstellar law was probably being broken. I fed it another strip, trying not to look directly into its eyes. Every time I did, I got that feeling, like I was being judged by something with both innocence and mischief. Don't look at me like that, I muttered. You started it. It chirped again, softer this time, tail swishing like it owned the place. I couldn't help but laugh. You're lucky I'm soft for lost causes, little one. For a while, it just sat there, eating jerky crumbs and staring at me like I was the most interesting malfunctioning human in the quadrant. Then, just as I started to relax, it stood up on shaky legs, made this little bow, yeah, a bow, and bolted. Straight out the hangar bay, into the pink dust storm beyond. I barely had time to yell, "Hey! You're welcome," before it vanished. I stared after it, shaking my head. Great. I'm gonna get blamed for this. Some alien ranger's gonna show up and accuse me of feeding that kid forbidden snacks. I turned back to my workstation, grumbling to myself, but couldn't shake the weird feeling. That purr, it wasn't just hunger. It sounded like gratitude. Or a promise. Half an hour later, I was still pacing. You'd think after 12 cycles out here alone, I'd be used to silence. But now the place felt emptier. I kept glancing at the door, expecting those golden eyes to peek in again. I told myself I didn't care. I lied. I tried to distract myself by fixing the busted comm array, but the hum of the generators only made the quiet louder. Then, faintly, I heard it again. A sound carried by the wind, low, rhythmic, and a lot bigger than before. My gut tightened. Don't be what I think it is, I muttered. But of course, it was. Outside, the ground began to tremble, softly at first, then harder. Tools rattled off the table. A shadow stretched across the hangar door, long and sleek, moving with slow confidence. The temperature dropped a few degrees. My instincts screamed two things, hide or apologize. Neither seemed effective. And then, silence. I exhaled, half laughing. Okay, maybe it's just the wind. Yeah, sure. Wind that walks. I picked up my wrench and was halfway to the control panel when a low growl rolled through the metal walls like thunder. That was no wind. I froze. The comm lights flickered. Then, something tapped, deliberately, on the outer hull. 1, 2, 3. Rhythmic. Measured. Like someone, or something, was politely asking to come in. Occupied, I said weakly. The tap came again. Louder. I sighed, because apparently I'd lost my survival instinct somewhere between Earth and here. I walked to the door, hand hovering over the release switch. My brain screamed don't, but my curiosity, the same disease that had me feeding random alien wildlife, won. The door hissed open. Dust swirled in, pink light spilling across the floor. And standing there, framed against the alien sunset, was the most dangerously beautiful creature I'd ever seen. 7 feet tall, fur like burnished bronze, eyes like molten gold. Muscles that rippled beneath smooth, patterned skin. Every movement was precise, predatory, and somehow graceful enough to make me forget how to breathe. She looked down at me, expression unreadable, tail flicking once. And in her arms, my little cub. Safe. Purring. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. My brain rebooted, skipped logic entirely, and went straight to panic humor. Look, I didn't mean to feed your kid human food. I mean, I did, but I didn't know it was your kid, and technically it was beef, not human, so. Her eyes narrowed slightly. A low rumble left her throat. Not quite anger, not quite amusement. Somewhere in between. I swallowed hard. The translator on my wrist beeped, static flickering, then finally caught the signal. A smooth, feminine voice came through, "You fed my cub." I nodded slowly. Yeah. He looked hungry. Her gaze softened, just slightly. That is not done among my kind. Right. Cultural differences. My bad. She tilted her head, studying me like a curious scientist might study a strange new specimen. Then she smiled. It was small, sharp, and unsettlingly warm. You are brave. Or foolish. Mostly foolish, I admitted. The cub squeaked, reaching toward me. She followed its gaze, then back to me, something unreadable in her expression. He remembers your flavor. I blinked. Excuse me. Your offering, she clarified. He says it was rich. Strong. I had no idea what to say. My brain picked the worst option available. Thanks. It's the seasoning. She stepped closer, and for the first time, I caught her scent, spice, ozone, something wild. My heart tripped over itself. She leaned slightly forward, eyes half-lidded. Human, she said slowly, as if tasting the word. We will speak again. And just like that, she turned, tail curling around her cub, and vanished into the storm. I stood there, frozen, wondering if I'd just made first contact, or a terrible life choice. Maybe both. Probably both. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Note to self, next time, feed the machine, not the wildlife. But deep down, I knew the universe wasn't done laughing at me yet. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak in the metal walls sounded like claws. Every gust of wind made me picture glowing eyes outside the viewport. I told myself it was fine, that she was gone, that I could go back to being the galaxy's least successful mechanic/zookeeper. But deep down, I knew I'd been mocked. You don't hand-feed a predator's kid and just move on. By morning, I was jumpier than a plasma coil in a lightning storm. I tried to distract myself with maintenance work, but every wrench I dropped felt like it echoed into the void, calling her back. Around noon, I gave up and made coffee, the strong, bitter kind that could double as paint remover. That's when I heard the hum. Low, steady, mechanical. Not wind this time. A ship. The hangar lights flickered. Dust rippled across the floor. Then the bay doors hissed open without my command. My console blared a proximity alert, flashing one word in angry red text, unknown. She stepped through the airlock like she owned gravity. The Tigress woman, taller in daylight, more terrifyingly majestic, her fur shimmering with bronze undertones that made my human brain short-circuit again. She wasn't wearing armor, but she didn't need any. Confidence was armor enough. I nearly spilled my coffee. You again. Wow. You, travel light. She blinked slowly, like my sarcasm was a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. You live alone, she said through the translator, voice rich and oddly melodic. Yeah, well, solitude builds character. It also invites hunger, she replied, with a tone that made me question whether she was talking about food or something else entirely. I've got snacks, I offered, gesturing weakly toward the counter. Jerky, noodles, instant disappointment. She looked around my cluttered workspace, eyes catching on the hanging tools, the humming generator, the empty mug collection that screamed lonely human with poor habits. This is your den. Den, home, mess, depends on how polite you want to be. She tilted her head, then crouched, running a claw lightly along the edge of a metal crate. The sound sent a shiver down my spine. You made offerings here. You mean food wrappers? Yeah, I'm basically a trash god. Her ears twitched. The translator lagged a second, then chirped, You jest. But your cub. Not my cub, I cut in quickly. He just showed up starving. Was fed, she continued, unbothered. And you risked much to do so. Pretty sure the only risk was getting drooled on. Her eyes narrowed, like I'd said something brave or stupid. Hard to tell which. Among my kind, she said, to feed another's young is intimate. Sacred. Oh no. Sacred, huh? Great. I've accidentally committed space marriage. The translator beeped uncertainly, translating marriage as life bond ritual. Her pupils dilated. You speak of bonding. Whoa, no, human figure of speech. Thing. We say stuff we don't mean all the time. She studied me like I'd just confessed to being mildly radioactive. You are strange, human. You give without demand. You speak in riddles. And your scent is complex. Complex good or complex toxic? Both. My brain took a brief vacation. I stood there holding my coffee mug like it was a shield. Well, glad to be confusing. Her cub padded out from behind her, tail flicking, eyes bright. It chirped and ran straight to me. Against all survival logic, I bent down and scratched behind its ears. It purred instantly, louder than before. The mother watched, arms crossed, tail curling lazily. He favors you. I tend to have that effect on strays. She stepped closer, voice low. And do you favor him, or his mother? My brain stalled. Look, I'm flattered, but this is a lot before lunch. Her translator struggled, rephrasing my awkwardness into something like, Your flattery pleases me, but the meal is early. She seemed to take that as agreement. Then it is settled. What is? You will dine with me. Oh, cool. Casual lunch. Just between species. No pressure. Her expression softened, barely. You have courage. Or ignorance. Both are flavors I admire. I groaned. Yeah, I get that a lot. She looked at my tools again, curiosity flickering. You build machines. Fix them, mostly. Build occasionally. You know, when they stop listening. You speak as though your tools are alive. They act like it. Break at the worst possible times. Throw tantrums. It's like raising kids, but with more explosions. Her ears perked. You compare offspring to weapons. Sometimes it fits. She blinked, then let out a sound that might have been laughter, low, purring, rolling through the air like a warm engine. My chest tightened. I wasn't sure if I should feel proud or terrified. You are unlike the others we have met, she said. I get that too. Usually right before someone fires me. Her cub climbed onto my workbench, pawing at a screwdriver. I gently took it back. Careful, buddy. That's sharp. Sharp, she echoed, watching me handle it carefully. You protect even in small things. I shrugged. Comes naturally. A silence fell, comfortable, but heavy with something unsaid. She moved closer again, eyes half-lidded. You fed my bloodline. You offered care. You speak softly even when afraid. You are peculiar. Thanks, I said dryly. That's the nicest insult I've gotten in months. Not insult, she corrected. Observation. Your species hides power beneath jest. Guilty as charged. Humor keeps us alive. Then you must laugh often, she said, gaze flicking to the cluttered corner of the room, for your den smells of survival. I winced. That's just the coffee. She ignored the joke. You misunderstand me, human. I did not come only to thank you. I raised an eyebrow. No. I came to understand you. I set the mug down carefully. That sounds complicated. All understanding is, she said simply. But you interest me. Your ways are illogical, yet your heart, deliberate. I wasn't used to being analyzed by 7 feet of alien royalty. I coughed, trying to act normal. Look, if this is about the jerky. It is about much more than jerky, she interrupted, and for one terrifying moment I thought she might mean it literally. Then her cub made a curious chirp, breaking the tension. She looked down, something almost tender flickering across her face. When she looked back at me, the warmth was still there. My cub calls you the warm one. He says you spoke kindly. He trusts easily. That is rare. I smiled despite myself. He's a good kid. Weird taste in snacks, though. She stepped back, gaze steady. You are bold, human Mason Trent. Feeders of strangers often shape the future more than warriors. Right. Sure. I'll add that to my resume. Accidental history maker, first class. Her translator caught only half the sarcasm, rendering it as, you shape history with accident and class. She seemed impressed. Yeah, that's me. Walking disaster with style. The cub nuzzled my leg one last time before she called softly, and it trotted to her side. She turned toward the bay doors, but paused, glancing over her shoulder. Prepare yourself, human. There will be consequences for what you've done. Consequences. Her smile returned, small, sly, entirely dangerous. I told myself she wouldn't come back. That she'd had her curiosity satisfied, filed me away as the galaxy's strangest lunch donor, and moved on. I even started to believe it, right up until her voice came through the comms 3 days later. Smooth, low, calm as static before a storm, human. We will die now. I stared at the speaker like it had just insulted my ancestry. You don't even call first. But the line went dead. 10 minutes later, her ship was hovering outside my hangar again, elegant and terrifying. I considered pretending not to be home, but it's hard to ghost someone who can see your heat signature from orbit. When the door opened, she didn't wait for permission. She walked in like she was inspecting property she already owned. The cub followed, tail high, clearly delighted to see me. I tried to act casual. Back already? You know, most guests at least bring a bottle. Her translator hummed, then, you would have me bring liquid tribute. Figure of speech again. Forget it. She tilted her head. Humans waste many words. Yeah, we call it conversation. She stepped closer, scanning my small table. You prepare food here. Usually. Unless the replicator's feeling rebellious. Her claws tapped lightly on the metal surface. Show me. You want me to cook? For you. You fed my cub. You will feed me. That sounded both flattering and extremely dangerous. I sighed and rummaged through supplies. All right, but you're getting the classic Mason special, reheated noodles à la regret. She watched with fascination as I boiled water and unwrapped packets. Every movement seemed to amuse her. When I stirred the noodles, she leaned in slightly. You perform ritual. Cooking's less a ritual, more a survival strategy. You move with care, she said. Precision. Intention. Yeah, because last time I forgot the lid, I nearly lost an eyebrow. The cub sniffed the air, purring. She, however, looked at the noodles like they were alien relics. This sustains you. Barely. She extended a claw and poked one. It stuck to her finger. She lifted it, examined the string of noodle like it was alive, then let it drop. Strange. Soft. Flexible. Just like humans, I said automatically. Her eyes flicked up. You jest again. Constantly. Keeps me sane. She seemed to weigh that, then nodded. Perhaps that is your strength. Joking. Adapting. I wasn't sure whether that was a compliment or an evaluation, but I took it. When the food was ready, I set out 2 bowls. She stared at hers, uncertain. I mimed eating to demonstrate. After a moment, she followed suit, elegant even while holding chopsticks wrong. Her first bite was cautious. Her second was not. The sound she made, half purr, half growl, made my spine light up. It is good. I grinned. See? Humanity, masters of instant cuisine. She tilted her head, still chewing thoughtfully. You feed without fear. Even one who could end you. I'm an optimist. Or an idiot. Jury's still out. The translator clicked, and she gave what I assumed was laughter. It was deep, rich, the kind that vibrated the air around her. The cub joined in, chirping happily. For a few minutes, it felt almost normal. 2 species, 1 awkward dinner, everyone pretending not to notice how weird it was. Then she ruined it by saying, "You repaired your machine with silver tape." I followed her gaze to the patch on the generator. It's called duct tape. Holds the universe together. She crouched to examine it. Your technology is crude, yet effective. That's our motto, pretty much. If it works, it's advanced enough. She straightened, eyes narrowing in what looked like admiration. You solve without ceremony. Yeah, we don't do well with ceremony. Too much bowing, not enough caffeine. She gave that small, sharp smile again. You laugh while others hesitate. I see now why my cub trusts you. Because I'm funny. Because you are unafraid to be foolish. Hey, I resemble that remark. Her translator paused, then softly misrendered my joke as you take pride in your foolishness. She seemed impressed again. I decided not to correct it. She circled the room once more, her movements smooth and deliberate. You live surrounded by noise and clutter, she said. And yet, it comforts you. It's home, I said simply. Strange word. Home. You mean a place of belonging. Sort of. A place that feels like you, even if it's a mess. She nodded slowly. Then this is you. I wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a warning. Yeah, this is me. Low budget, high maintenance. Her tail swished. Your humility is a weapon. Excuse me. You disarm through humor. You invite before you defend. Clever. Or suicidal, I muttered. She didn't deny it. Instead, she walked closer, eyes gleaming. You confuse me, human. When we first met, I thought you foolish. But now... Still foolish. Her gaze didn't waver. Still. But also, something else. Do I want to know what something else means? Curious, she said softly. And dangerous. I coughed into my coffee mug. Right. My 2 best qualities. She seemed amused, leaning just close enough for me to feel the heat radiating off her. Perhaps there is more to your kind than I believed. Maybe. We're full of surprises. Indeed, she murmured, eyes dropping to the bowl. Even your food pretends to be simple. Are you saying my noodles are deep? I am saying you are. I didn't have a response for that, so I just took another sip. The silence stretched, charged but not uncomfortable. The cub yawned, curling up between us. Then, quietly, she said, among my people, sharing a meal is an agreement. A bond. I set the mug down. Here we go again with the cultural misfires. This one is not sacred, she continued. It is acknowledgement. Of what? That you have shown me something unexpected. Bad, unexpected, or good? She smiled, faintly, still deciding. The cub made a soft sound, and she rested a clawed hand gently on its head. He will remember this. He will tell others of the human who fed him, who shared warmth without reason. Glad to help rewrite the intergalactic parenting manual. Her ears twitched, maybe a laugh. You mock, but I speak truth. You have given him more than food. Yeah? What's that? Curiosity. About your kind. About kindness. For once, I didn't have a snappy comeback. I just nodded. She looked at me one last time, eyes sharp and unreadable. You are not what we were told. Yeah, we get that a lot. You will see me again, she said. Another dinner invitation. Perhaps. Or a warning. That's comforting. She stood, gathering her cub, and paused at the door. You should be careful, Mason Trent. The galaxy watches. It rarely forgives, but it always remembers. And then she was gone again, leaving only the faint hum of her ship fading into the distance and the smell of overcooked noodles. I sat back, staring at the empty bowl. Great, I muttered. First contact, and I managed to impress and confuse the same person in under an hour. The console beeped, signaling a new transmission code logged in my system. Her code. I shook my head, half smiling. Guess I've got a pen pal now. I leaned back, cracked my neck, and laughed quietly to myself. Humanity, I thought, forever punching above its weight, and sometimes surviving just because we make good noodles. The next morning started too quiet. That kind of quiet that makes you suspicious you've finally gone deaf or cosmic fate is winding up a punchline. I checked the scanners, no ships. Checked the comms, no messages. Even the coffee machine didn't complain, which worried me more than anything. Peace never lasts long out here. Sure enough, halfway through breakfast, the console pinged. An encrypted message. Not a word, not even a voice, just coordinates and a symbol that looked suspiciously like a poor print. I didn't need the translator to guess who it was from. I stared at it for a full minute, muttering, yeah, sure. What could possibly go wrong? Then, because bad ideas are my specialty, I packed up the rover and went. The coordinates led to a canyon outside the settlement zone, carved by wind and time into smooth red stone. Her ship sat there like it had grown out of the rock, sleek, elegant, shimmering in the sunlight. I stopped 50 meters away, debating whether to honk. She appeared before I could decide, stepping out with that same impossible calm, her cub bounding after her. You came, she said. You sent an invite. Would have been rude not to RSVP. Her translator hummed, turning my sarcasm into something overly polite. You show respect. Close enough, I said. She gestured toward a small crate beside her. Sit. We share meal. Again. This time, you will not cook. Probably for the best. I sat, and she opened a container revealing something that looked halfway between fruit and molten metal. Steam drifted up, smelling like spice and ozone. She handed me a piece with surprising care. Eat. It is safe. That's what everyone says before it's not, I muttered, but I took a bite. Sweet, tangy, a little electric. Not bad. Zings the tongue. It is called Veshra, she said. A symbol of trust. I swallowed carefully. You sure your people don't have a weird definition of trust? Her tail flicked. Among us, sharing Veshra binds two paths. Not ownership. Understanding. Big on symbolic food, aren't you? Food tells truth, she said. You gave freely. I return what was taken. What was taken? Your ease. That threw me. My what now? You live behind walls and wires, she said softly. Always ready for harm, never for surprise. Feeding my cub, she paused, watching me, that was surprise. You remembered how to risk kindness. I blinked. That's actually kind of profound. Coming from someone who growled at me the first time we met. Her smile flashed, brief and sharp. Growling is our version of caution. Noted. I'll try that next time I meet someone new. You would scare your own kind. Wouldn't be the first time. The cub chirped between us, demanding attention. She reached down to stroke its fur, and I caught the faintest warmth in her expression, less predator, more parent. He speaks of you often, she said. He says the human smells of storms. Storms, huh? That's a new one. Usually I get burnt coffee and regret. She tilted her head, amused. He also says you are loud when alone. I nearly choked. What? He was outside when I was singing. Her eyes glimmered. Singing. Okay, it was more yelling at machinery, but close enough. I see. Your songs repair. In a way, I said. At least until something else breaks. She nodded slowly. Strange people, humans. You make noise to heal silence. Better than letting it eat you, I said quietly. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The canyon wind filled the gap, soft and warm. Then she said, You are unlike the others we've met in the trade colonies. They speak with teeth. You speak with laughter. Teeth are overrated. Yet you have them. Yeah, but I use mine mostly for bad jokes and sandwiches. Her translator caught the shape of humor even if the words failed. She smiled again, genuine this time. Perhaps laughter is your defense. Perhaps that is your weapon. Hey, some people have lasers. I've got sarcasm. It seems effective. Depends who's listening. She studied me for a long time, tail curling lazily in the dust. You confuse me less now, she said. But you still unsettle. I'll take that as progress. Her tone softened. You should. Few beings can unsettle a mother and make her laugh in the same breath. Guess I'm gifted. She reached into her satchel and pulled out a small metallic disc. Take this. A communicator. It links to my vessel's network. Should you ever need assistance, or should I? I took it carefully. You're giving me your number? Didn't think I was your type. Perhaps you are not, she said, voice calm, and perhaps you are. The translator lagged on the last word, adding an echo that made my brain stumble. I decided to change the subject. So, what happens now? We awkwardly wave and pretend this never happened. She looked skyward, thoughtful. Now, we remember. You will tell your people of us. I will tell mine of you. Hope you tell it better than I would. I'm terrible at PR. You will say you fed a cub and met a mother. Something tells me you'll make it sound more epic. I will say, she corrected, that I met a human who saw hunger and chose compassion over caution. I scratched my neck, trying not to blush. You make it sound like heroism. It was jerky. Intent matters more than offering. I exhaled, smiling. You know, for someone who started this relationship by threatening my life, you're not half bad. And you, she said, for someone who broke every rule of interspecies etiquette, are tolerable. Wow. High praise. She stood, her shadow long across the sand. The cub bounded ahead, chirping at the ship. Farewell, Mason Trent. We will meet again. Is that a promise or a warning? Both, she said, eyes gleaming. But next time, you will bring better food. Deal. She turned, walking toward the ship. Just before boarding, she glanced back once more. You have given me laughter. That is rare. Guard it. Always do, I said. And then she was gone, the ship rising on a silent thruster pulse, leaving only dust and the faint electric taste of Veshra fruit in the air. I stood there for a while, staring at the empty sky, trying to decide if I'd just participated in the weirdest cultural exchange in history or the first cross-species comedy act. Probably both. Back at the outpost, I set the communicator disc on my console and poured myself another cup of coffee. The steam curled up, catching the light. I raised the mug in a half-toast to the quiet. Here's to humanity, I said. Still winging it, still surviving, still making friends we don't understand. The console beeped once, unprompted. The communicator glowed faintly, a soft amber pulse like a heartbeat. A voice, not words, just a purr, familiar and amused, filled the air for a moment, then faded. I grinned, shaking my head. Guess the universe does appreciate a good punchline after all. And somewhere between the hum of the machines and the smell of coffee and metal, I laughed. Not out of fear or confusion this time, but because somehow, impossibly, it felt like the beginning of something bigger, something ridiculous, honest, and beautifully human.